Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome into the 4-3 show. Hope you're all having a great week so far.
Didn't start it.
Pat, what?
You didn't start the show.
Yeah, I did. The show, we're on live right now.
Have we been live this whole time?
No, we just went live like 20 seconds ago.
Oh. It doesn't stay. Oh, there it is. 25 seconds. It wasn't popping up for me. That's my bad.
Okay. Hope everyone's having a good week. I'm your host, Ryan Blank. I'm alongside Parker Dunn, Pat Fortuna, and Dominic Stern. Pat, welcome back after missing last week. Anything from Pat?
Seems like he's having some internet connection issues here, obviously.
Hi, Dom and Parker. How are we doing today?
Well, the show is off to a very bad start. In case anyone here is watching or listening, we thank you to all of our listeners. Whether you're listening to us on YouTube today on Monday or on Wednesday on blazeradioonline.com, we thank you for tuning in. I've been good. I intentionally locked someone in our slow pitch softball game last night.
That was so funny. They got so mad.
I enraged about 30 frat guys, and that was one of the proudest moments of my baseball career. I guess it's not baseball anymore, but it was absolutely electric. I don't regret my actions. I got the next guy out anyways, and it was a move out of spite. Do not threaten to face us in the parking lot after the game in an ASU B League intramural slow pitch softball game. Because you will get intentionally walked. That's what happens.
Did they say that to you?
Not to me. They said that to Grant, I believe. When
to meet us.
Because here's what happened. It
got chippy. It got very chippy.
Well, because we were having fun. It's intramural sports. Arizona State
we started talking a little bit.
Very, very fun. And they hit a pop up to our second baseman. And the entire dugout, very well timed, screamed, I got it. And that kind of spooked our second baseman. He dropped a routine fly ball that, of course, was like the seventh out of the inning. Defense was not very good for me. Defense was not very good last night. Happens. And then their pitcher, later in the game, had a pop-up right by our dugout, and we all yelled, I got it. And then he dropped some F-bombs, and we basically told him to shut up and dribble. Obviously in different terms, and then he said, "Come meet me in the parking lot after the game." And then he caught a line drive later in the game that was hit right at him, and he was like, "Ugh," and I'm like,
and then he bowed. Yeah. Then he bowed to Pat.
That was just,
yeah. And then Pat retaliates after a hit from Dylan and bows right back at him.
Right, and so he then hit a single that, of course, got by Ryan later in the game because Ryan doesn't really belong in center field, but our outfield.
I actually played really well.
No, you did fine. You messed up on that play, but a single that turned into a home run. He got the home run chain, and I wasn't going to let him have the satisfaction of hitting with the home run chain on. So I intentionally walked him, sent him to first base, and they were not happy. There was an open base though. I'm sorry that I have more baseball IQ than you guys. I'm sorry. I don't know what you want me to do. I have to show it off somehow, and I sent him down to first, and that was all she wrote.
Do you know what would have been funny if they would have said you can't intentionally walk him, and then he intentionally walks across the plate to just hit it? Because I know you would have thrown 3 straight balls.
No, I would have tossed the ball at him. Is what I would have done. And then which honestly, in hindsight, would have been funnier.
Yeah, you should have done that.
No, I wanted to make sure that he knew that I was intentionally walking him and that I was doing it so that he wouldn't be able to hit. And also, if I would have hit him, I don't know what he would have done. But we got a show. That was my last night. But that was.
He charges them out. I'm coming in from center field, and we're going at him.
Oh, I'm running.
I mean, if he charges me, I'm just gonna let him hit me because then I'm not gonna fight back because I don't want to get suspended for something that I frankly did that was perfectly legal. I'm not gonna get suspended for that.
Hey, it's okay. It's okay.
Take one for the team.
Hey, I got your back. We saw what happened on Saturday night. I got some hands.
Okay, we don't need to talk about that. But yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Parker, how are we doing today?
Doing pretty good. I like that we had that little story because that was a fun little occurrence. And, of course, it is sports related, so why not? But, yeah, no, I'm doing pretty good, and I look forward to the rest of the show. College basketball picks. There's some unpredictable games. I'm sure there's going to be plenty more leading up to the tournament. So, can always get into it.
Pat, you're back. Connection fixed?
I hope so.
How we doing, buddy?
Dude, Park Place has been so bad with Wi-Fi all day. Dom, I don't know if you've experienced the same thing. My Ethernet works great, but my Wi-Fi has just been dog doo-doo. Dom, you're muted.
Is your Ethernet on your computer, though?
No, I don't have an Ethernet thing on my computer.
Well, my Ethernet is on my computer, so it is not a problem for me.
Right, I was playing Call of Duty nice and good earlier. I had no
I
issue.
was gonna say, like yesterday, oh my gosh, the internet speed was through the roof.
The Ethernet is unreal. It's the Wi-Fi that they keep struggling with. So I bought a pass for Cox Wi-Fi because I've been blowing. So I bought like a 24-hour pass, so I can do work and stuff. But
You've had to do that a couple of times.
Yeah.
I have. It happens all the time here. That's their big. I'd say that's the biggest flaw at Park Place.
No, the garbage chute is their biggest flaw.
That's true. The flaw that most impacts my daily life.
Yes, I'm the one who generally ends up taking out the trash, which is a 1-minute ordeal, so I don't mind. So I know how often the trash chute is just clogged, and when one's clogged, they're all clogged because we are innovational here at Park Place. But it's an interesting thing, but. Yes, the Wi-Fi normally when I have to take my computer off of my docking station and go in, it's not the most consistent. But I just turn my Wi-Fi on and then back off, or vice versa, and it works. But yeah.
All right, gentlemen, let's get into it. We're going to start off with the NFL, and of course, Carson Wentz is gone. He is now in Indianapolis. What do you guys think of the trade?
I think it's a good opportunity for both sides to move on into a better situation. We all know the Colts, after Andrew Luck suddenly retired before the season started, they were kind of put in a jumble. They didn't really know what to do, so they started Jacoby Brissett. I believe they went 8-8. They missed the playoffs. And then Phillip Rivers was the starting quarterback this year on a 1-year deal. Everyone basically knew that was probably going to be the last year of his career. Played very well for them, but they needed to find a better long-term option for them. In drafting late in the first round, obviously it's really tough to be able to draft a quarterback. So that it went out and they traded for Carson Wentz, like you mentioned. They didn't give up too much to get Carson. And I don't think they should have needed to because he was very shaky in Philly. It was very clear that the chemistry between him and Doug Peterson, who was fired, and the general manager, Howie Roseman, was clearly correct. And they just needed to move on. Carson Wentz, very talented. He's a big guy, which is what a lot of GMs love to have quarterbacks. Generally an accurate passer. This past season was just not the case. And he used to be mobile. It was very clear that he was hurt last year and he was just terrible. And obviously he's had some injuries over the course of his career that were not really his fault. I mean, the ACL one when he jumped into the end zone, not necessarily his fault. The concussion injury, and then he's had some back injuries. Aren't necessarily his fault, but he does have some injury history. So Philly's taking a risk here, but they have a quarterback for the next 4 years. They're not too financially restrained to him this season, and they have a ton of cap space anyway. So it made sense. They didn't give up much, and they get a quarterback for the near future. We'll see if head coach Frank Reich, who was the Philadelphia offensive coordinator during Wentz's MVP-esque season, which of course he didn't win. Tom Brady ended up winning because Wentz ended up missing the last month of the season with an injury, the ACL injury that I entailed earlier. But if they can find a way to get him close to what he was in that season, the Colts are going to be an easy Super Bowl contender.
Yeah, I like it a lot. I mean, you mentioned them not giving up a particularly large amount for his talents, and I agree with that. Of course, people want to look at what he's done most recently. Of course, there's that recency bias as far as the struggles that he had with this Eagles team. But I think the bigger picture is he's a young, talented quarterback, and he has so much more left in him, and he just didn't have what he needed around him. The O-line did not protect him at all. He was out there running for his life. Not a good wide receiver core, not too many guys he can trust other than Ertz. And a lot of guys had a lot of drop issues. They just were not very reliable overall. So when it comes down to it, I think that Wentz has shown flashes of being a very good quarterback. The Colts, of course, moving on from the 1 year that they had with Phillip Rivers. That team is so talented on both sides of the ball. They're one of the few teams to be in the top 10 on both offense and defense. If you insert Carson Wentz in there, I expect them to have a large amount of success. They're looking to put some weapons around him outside of T.Y. Hilton, Michael Pittman Jr. I know that there's a lot of rumors in the draft that they're going to look to address that with the very talented wide receiver class that we're having yet again. So I think that this is a good move, and I think that Colts team is going to be very good should they get a good Carson Wentz out of him.
Well, I think what this trade is going to do is it's just going to prove whether or not Carson Wentz is the bust everybody's calling him. I mean, he had one great year. Since then, his career has been horrible, but so is his offensive line. Dom, don't look at me. They have one good year of success with Carson Wentz.
No, I don't think that's true because there was the year in 2019 where he basically took that offense from the dead from Nick Foles and led them to the playoffs. And listen, he's been very inconsistent. I'm not going to disagree with what you're saying. But when he's been on the field, with the exception of last year he was awful. He's been a very solid quarterback.
Yeah, but he hasn't been anything. He hasn't been worth his draft stock where they drafted him, and he hasn't done what they wanted him to do. I mean, the Eagles clearly were in a win-now situation when they won the Super Bowl a few years ago. They were underdogs, of course, but the issue is Carson Wentz has shown no promise outside of that one great year. No real promise, I should say. He had no future in Philly. So this is where we'll see whether or not he's the quarterback that he was drafted as.
I think this is a good trade for both sides. I think it's good for Philly to start over and give Jalen Hurts his opportunity. He came in and actually played pretty well for them throughout, and I think that if he can continue to play like he did last year, then I think he will be their guy for the future. So I think it's a good trade for them. They get some draft capital as well. I like this trade for the Colts because here's what it does for Carson Wentz. It's going to give him some better weapons. Granted, they get back T.Y. Hilton, which I think they will. Better offensive line, drastically better. And he's back with Frank Reich, where he had his top season, which was 2017, where he led the team to an 11-2 start and was MVP until he got hurt against the Rams, like Don mentioned earlier. And in 2019, he wasn't bad. He threw for 27 touchdowns and 7 picks and threw for over 4,000 yards. He wasn't bad. He set a career high in 19 when in passing yards, first time eclipsing 4,000 yards. He was solid. Got them into the playoffs. So there's still something in him, I see. I just think that he needs a fresh start and he needs more around him, and that's what he's going to get in Indianapolis with a new offensive line that's just one of the best in football and by getting a better receiving core. So I think that he's going to have a better year. But, Pat, you're right. This makes or breaks the argument on if Carson Wentz is a bust or not. All right, gentlemen. We are getting to that time where franchise tagging is going to come into play. If you guys had to pick just one, who do you see being tagged this offseason?
Well, I'm going to stick with a team because I think the Buccaneers franchise tag situation is really intriguing because they have 3 really key free agents, Chris Godwin, Levante David, and Shaq Barrett. And those were 3 very vital parts of the Super Bowl winning team this year, all free agents. And you can only franchise tag one of them. So I just wanted to say I'd imagine that one of them gets the franchise tag, and then maybe they'll try and bring back the other 2. I'm not exactly sure which ones. I'm pretty confident that Shaq Barrett was playing on the franchise tag this past season because he signed a 1-year deal after leaving Denver. And in 2019, he was phenomenal, led the NFL in sacks. And this year he was good. Definitely not an NFL sack leader like he was. But it would make sense to use it on him again and then maybe bring back one of either Godwin or Levante David. But David's been the bigger piece for that team over the course of his career. He's obviously been there for a long time. So it also would make some sense to bring him back. But I think the Bucs situation is really interesting. Wanted to highlight that.
Parker.
Well, one of the more obvious ones, not necessarily as far as what people expect, but just one that I see that makes a lot of sense, of course, is with Dak Prescott, because this is the kind of year to do it because he was looking for that huge long-term contract, and deservingly so. His numbers back it up. It backs up wanting a lot of money, maybe not quite as much as he was looking for, but still a large sum of money that would put him up there with the top-tier quarterbacks as far as salary goes. But when it comes down to it, the way I look at it is he got injured, season-ending injury, He was looking very good at the beginning. Of course, that Dallas team as a whole was not. The defense looked really bad, and there was a lot of issues that prevented them from winning more football games like a lot of people expected going into the year. I think that ultimately, though, he's done his part in the last couple of years, and he was going to do it this season too before he got hurt. He doesn't have nearly as much leverage now as he once did now that he is coming off of a serious injury. So I think that this is a good transition year to give it to him one more time and then try and work on that long-term contract should he show that he can sustain his health and continue to be out there on the field. And I think that this is the perfect season to do that. So although there's plenty of other candidates around the league, I feel like Dak Prescott's a name that comes to mind. I did see something this morning. This was actually one that was on my mind a little bit before that. And I think it just makes so much more sense now than had he not gotten injured.
Pat, do you have anyone?
No, I mean, I think that the obvious player in my mind, the obvious player to franchise tag is Dak Prescott. He has to have a season to prove that he's worth or not worth the money that he's asking. And he's asking a lot of money. That Mahomes contract isn't going to help his case, or is going to help his case, I'm sorry, because it's so big. And I'd say they're both top 5 quarterbacks when healthy. Obviously, Mahomes is higher in the upper half of that top 5 compared to Dak Prescott, but he's the obvious option for me. Chris Godwin would be the other one, because if you can keep a wide receiver of that caliber for another season, I think it's absolutely worth it. But franchise tagging is always a very complicated thing to me. I don't think it's black and white at all. I think there's a lot that goes into it. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out over the next few weeks.
For me, there's 2 wide receivers, and one of them is Kenny Golladay. I think the Lions do not want to give up on him. I think they want to keep him, make sure Jared Goff has a top weapon, because they're also losing Marvin Jones. So I think they want to keep Kenny Golladay, so it won't shock me if they went franchise tag route. And also, I think Allen Robinson will get tagged. Regardless, they could also tag and trade him, but I think he will get tagged regardless whether he's just going to end up playing.
I don't see that happening, though. I don't see them tagging him. It's going to cost them money that they don't want to spend.
The wide receiver tag, I believe, is 15.1 this year. If I'm not mistaken, no, it's 15.8. It's 15.
Yes. And then don't they absorb like a ton of dead cap if they trade him after that too?
I don't know.
They're gonna inherit a lot of money that they don't want to have to pay when they could go out and try to just sign another free agent or trade for somebody else.
Yeah, that's fair, but I think that's still an option. So those are my 2 guys that I could really see. Do you guys have anyone else that you think could end up getting the tag? Dom, what about you in the Rams?
John Johnson seems like the primary candidate. Maybe Austin Blythe, offensive lineman for the Rams. He's been a very consistent part of that offensive line over the past couple of years. Was banged up in 2019 and was part of the reason why the Rams had the 31st ranked offensive line according to Pro Football Focus, and why the offense completely fell apart and was terrible. So those 2 guys, I would say, are the primary candidates. I would be devastated to see John Johnson in a different uniform. He's been one of my favorite Rams ever since I've made the transition from Chargers to Rams. We can't ignore that. I haven't been a Rams fan for that long, but he's certainly been a fun guy to watch. And I certainly hope he doesn't go to the Chargers and follow Staley, because Johnson was the play caller on defense for the Rams when the defense was absolutely phenomenal this year. If he follows Staley and goes to the Chargers, I don't know what I'd do. But I hope he remains a Ram. If not, he's going to make another defense happy.
Parker, do you see anyone on the Broncos?
Yeah, I mean, Justin Simmons is a guy that could, because they've failed to lock him up long term, and this is what you have to do now, being that realistically they're going to have to buy some more time. He had another great season. Wasn't quite at the same level as the previous, but it was still a very good season. He's established himself well beyond the top tier of safety, so he's a great like one. This franchise tag would allow him to be top 5 in that salary domain as far as the safety position goes, and he more than backs it up. So no matter what route Denver decides to go with that, I think that it makes a lot of sense, because ultimately they need to buy themselves time because of their lack of execution when it came to it last offseason. That was something that I've said so many times, you guys all agree with. They messed up big time there, and now they're going to just have to continue to buy themselves time, because that's a player that they absolutely cannot go through from that defense.
Pat, do you see anyone on the Patriots potentially getting the tag?
No, not this year. I mean, nobody that stands out to me. It's definitely going to happen with at least one player, but I don't know. There's nobody that like I can really say like, yeah, I want to franchise tag them because our organization is a dumpster fire.
I don't see anyone on the Chiefs. I don't think the Chiefs are going to use it this year, actually. So wouldn't shock me if they just let it go. All right, let's move on to NCAA football, and it's prime time. Deion Sanders, head coach of Jackson State, gets his first win in his first game with a 53-0 shutout. But also, he got robbed during the game in the locker room. So what do you guys think of the two scenarios that have come about with him having a blowout victory and then him getting robbed?
Well, first off, it's really cool to see that Jackson State got that victory, obviously in HBCU. Always cool to see cool stories coming out of those colleges, especially in those college athletics, giving opportunities to those athletes is super cool. The story about the robbery, of course, outshines the fact that they won, which, of course, is a not ideal situation, and the fact that Deion got robbed. It just sucks because, these schools, the security can't be that great there, especially at the athletic facilities, and it happened. Hopefully it gets resolved, and hopefully that this can be a story that translates more to talking about the players at these types of schools instead of what happened outside of the game.
Yeah, I don't really have anything, like, as far as the victory goes. Like, I don't follow Jackson State football, so I can't really talk about the game. But just for, like, the kind of, player that Deion Sanders is, that is very lucrative. That attracts players. At the end of the day, it's still a small program, and I'm not going to expect them to get some huge recruits, but getting a guy like that definitely helps a program such as Jackson State. So I think that we can definitely see a trickle-down effect from hiring a guy like Deion, very likable, and players want to learn from him, especially defensive backs. So I think that could help the program. As for the incident that happened after the game, you hate to see stuff like that happen, unfortunately. And even with good security, stuff like this happens more often than it should, I guess you could say, because we've seen other incidents. I know Tom Brady's jersey is one of those that comes to mind after a big game, of course, with the Super Bowl. And that's the only one that comes right off the top of my mind. There's been many other incidents, but you hate to see that because the big focus should be the fact that he is coaching that team, that they did have a dominant win in that conference. But unfortunately, a story like that is just going to be the ultimate story of a game like that.
Pat?
Well, good for Deion Sanders, first of all. But I also hear that he's already, I don't know if you guys have read this, that he's already causing, a bunch of issues there, ego-wise. So that's really – I didn't watch the game. I don't know anything about it. But I know that he won, so good for him. Hopefully he can reel his ego in and continue to win with them. But, the theft – sucks. It's Jackson State security we're talking here. This isn't, the Super Bowl. But, it is what it is. Clearly, obviously, it happens at the Super Bowl too, as Parker just mentioned. But weird stuff. Weird stuff.
Yeah, it's not shocking that the ego of primetime is present. You're talking about one of the biggest.
Ego shows up. So
right, no, and he does what he does well. It's not, as long as it's not gonna impede from them getting these blowout wins, it's not gonna be a big deal.
If he can back it up, he can have all the ego he wants. Is basically how the situation can go. So I think it's a great win. I think it's a great way to showcase a smaller school and to showcase the players there. So I think it's really cool that they got a huge blowout victory. As for the robbery, it's something that shouldn't happen, but happens too often. Of course, we're talking about Jackson State security. Like Pat said, it's not going to be as high tech or high structured as something like the Super Bowl or World Series or anything like that. So it sucks, and hopefully it all gets resolved there. Now let's get into the college pick'ems, where I'm actually very happy now. We have a three-way tie at the top of Dominic, Parker, and myself. We each have a 30-23 record. And then there's Pat in last. Where
only took you half the season to pass me, buddy.
I know. It took me way too long. I know. I'm still disappointed in myself it took me that long. But
I think by winning percentage, you'd be really close if you just didn't pick ASU against USC when they were like 8-point underdogs.
Oh, that's so bad.
That was I think he realizes that too. But overall, what we have to look at is Pat is in his rightful spot. So, and hey, there's no punishment for this one, Pat. Be happy.
I still need to get that shirt.
Yeah, we need to get that punishment going.
I know.
I have to.
No, I'm going to, because it's also the Christmas present for my brother, so I need to get that. That's why it's going to be awesome.
Make me wear it first.
Yeah,
you got to get it in like 2X. Your brother's shirt's going to be
No. My brother's shirt will fit him and not fit you. That is
well,
part
it's
of the
going to stretch. It's going to stretch after I wear it.
You're going to be in it for like an hour.
What size does your brother wear?
I'll probably get a large.
Oh.
Okay, so it won't be too bad. It won't be too bad.
Right.
All right, guys. Let's get into our pick'ems. First off, on Tuesday, number 17 Kansas travels to number 14 Texas.
Yeah, these two teams are trending in opposite directions, but I don't care. I'm still taking the Longhorns. Hook 'em. I think that they have the ability to score and outscore Kansas. They had the game against West Virginia. There was some scuffling on the sidelines of Texas, and then from that point on, they blew it against West Virginia, the pride of Morgantown, and it things have not been good for Texas. All of their losses have been at home except for one, so this would certainly fall under that category once again. But I think they'll find a way to get it done. I'll take the Longhorns.
Parker.
Oh, I thought that was going to jump in there. This is such a hard game because I was literally just telling Ryan like an hour ago, like I just don't want to pick Texas in these top matchups now that Kansas is a team that's on the come up and they're rising very rapidly. And it's games like this really are like a coin flip. The one determining factor that ultimately makes this significantly harder is the fact that Texas is at home, and with how close that West Virginia game was. I want to stick with them. I don't know if Kansas is going to go back to their roots and have an inconsistent game. They surely haven't done that recently. They've looked really good. But ultimately, I feel like I've been too high on Texas from the beginning to not give them the benefit of the doubt in a home game like this. So ultimately, I will go with the Longhorns, but it's one of those games where it could hurt if it doesn't go that way.
Sorry, who were the Longhorns playing?
The Jayhawks.
Trying to think of a situation.
He's trying to think of something to say.
This is tough. This is a tough game to pick. Give me the Longhorns.
Why, Pat?
I don't know. I like Texas. It's a nice state.
Because I support KU?
Well, that. But also, you know, you got to support the people of Texas right now. Honestly, if you pick against Texas right now, you're an a-hole. Quite honestly. Do you know how many of them are without power right now? You're wrong for that.
Jeez.
Yeah. People in Kansas, too, are without power, but not as big of a severity.
No, shut up. Shut up. Don't make this about you.
I'm just saying a fact here, Pat.
Anyways, Ryan, who's your pick? I imagine it's going to be Kansas. So
Give me the Jayhawks. They're trending up. Texas is trending down. And give me revenge. Kansas got whooped at home by Texas. Kansas better go in to Texas and get the win. So that's all I'll say. Let's move on to Wednesday. Number 6, Alabama travels to number 20, Arkansas.
Yeah, these two teams have certainly looked like the two best teams in SEC. I think LSU is certainly starting to look like the third best team with the downward trends of both Tennessee and Missouri. It's going to be tough. Can Alabama make shots? Because when they make shots, they are so good because they run at such a high tempo and they have a really good defense. But Arkansas has been one of the more consistent teams in the country as of late. I'm still going to take the Crimson Tide here. I think they're going to roll, and I think they're going to win a very close game against Arkansas.
This is a game where the recent stretch of games from Arkansas has been so impressive that it makes it a lot more difficult to pick a game like this, especially with the Razorbacks being at home. But ultimately, I feel like Alabama from day one has given more reason to believe in them to win this conference and to be one of the higher seeds in the tournament. So I think that ultimately I'm going to stick with Bama. But this, according to how Arkansas has been playing as of late, should be a very good game.
Patrick.
You guys know that song, "Home" by Edward Sharpe and the Magnetic Zeros?
No.
You know, the first two lyrics in it are Alabama, Arkansas, I do love my mom. So,
Yes,
Alabama, Arkansas.
I know what it was called.
Yeah, home, let me go home. Yeah, it's a good song. Give me Alabama. Screw it. Oh, wait, no, Arkansas, they have the little pig, right? The little pig.
The razor.
Yes.
Yeah, give me the piggies.
So what they do is they go, Big Sweet.
I have a lot of friends that go to
I'll do
Arkansas. But give me Alabama in this one. I think Alabama needs to get another top 25 win. And they're a team that's a fringe 1 seed if they can find a way to continue to dominate like they have been all year long. So give me the Crimson Tide in this one. Moving on to Thursday, number 10, West Virginia at number 2, Baylor.
Yeah, the boys from Morgantown, they're going to make the trip down to Waco. And they're going to get stopped. They can't stop anyone as of late. They can score. They just can't stop anyone. And Baylor, as we all know, I think they're the best team in the country. A lot of people would disagree with me and say it's still Gonzaga, and I don't think I'm a fool for thinking that, but I'm certainly in the minority there for the thinking. And Baylor's going to stop you, and they're going to make threes. They're really tough to beat. I'm going to take Baylor here.
Yeah, same for me. I'm going to go with the consensus best team because they are neck and neck with Gonzaga. And I think when looking at those two teams, you can really go either way. Both have not suffered a loss this year. Of course, very different when Baylor's playing over there in the Big 12. It's a significantly more competitive one. But at the end of the day, both teams look so good, and they give every reason to believe in them any given night. And this is one of those. West Virginia has been a team that and that's funny. I'm not even like against them or doubting them or anything like that. I keep seeing myself picking against them against these ranked opponents, and I'm gonna have to keep that trend. Fortunately, this time though, I can have a lot more faith in Baylor to actually cover that end of the bargain.
I'd love to pick West Virginia here just to spite Ryan, but Baylor, if you ask me, is the best team in the country. Baylor, if you ask me, is the best team in the country. I'm on board with Dom. I don't know a ton about college basketball, but I know Baylor is really freaking good. And I know they're absolutely dominant on both defense and shooting the 3-ball. So give me Baylor in this one.
I'm going to go with Baylor. I just think that West Virginia can't stop anyone, and Baylor's just that dominant. It's easy. The two teams at the top, Baylor and Gonzaga, are the best teams in the country. Who is better?
Michigan.
And then there's Michigan, of course, right? Who's near them. But who's better between Baylor and Gonzaga? I just think that
that's not what you're being paid to do right now. Who do you think's winning, West Virginia or Baylor?
Wait, I'm getting paid?
Well, you guys get
no.
paid? Were the bonus reference, anyone?
Okay. I'm picking Baylor in this one. Next up, number 9, Iowa, traveling to Ann Arbor to take on Michigan, who Dom doubted last week.
I did. I'm not even going to justify it. I mean, Ohio State's really good. And
Don't try to justify it.
Michigan played great. I mean, Ohio State put up what? How many points against
87.
one of the best? And they put up 87 points against a really dang good team. Like,
yeah.
I'm not going to sit here and say, I made a bad pick. Like, Ohio State had a great game. Michigan just ended up making more clutch baskets down the stretch. That's what happened. But Iowa can't play defense. They've been playing much better defense lately, but they've been playing the not good offenses of the Big Ten. And then now Michigan's going to come and show them what a good offense looks like again. And they're going to set them straight. I'm going to take the Wolverines.
Yeah, this is one of those games where the only way Iowa has any chance is they have to outshoot Michigan. And of course, that's their thing. They score a lot of points. They've got a ton of great shooters. So this matchup between them should be very good. But if they get a Michigan team that looks like they did against Ohio State and shoots the ball, at least how they did in the first half, not in the second. They definitely struggled after that point. But if they get a Michigan team that's hitting those perimeter shots, getting it down low in the post, they're going to be just too much because ultimately Michigan can play better defense. They did go up against Ohio State and, of course, gave up a lot of points. But that was such a good matchup. And as far as offense goes, Ohio State is definitely up there as well in that regards. But I have to go with Michigan. That's the pick to win this conference for me. As much as Iowa has looked better and more improved defensively, I don't trust it enough against a talented team like Michigan.
Pat?
You know, the guy in our intramural softball game yesterday, one of the ones who was mean to me. They were all
Which
very
one?
mean to me. I heard you guys talking about it. The one in the Iowa sweatshirt was mean to me.
Oh, I hated
So, well, you have to unmute yourself, Dom. If you're
Yeah, I realized. Yeah, he was super tall.
he was very tall.
He did not have a great day at the plate, though. I will say
No,
that.
he didn't. He did not, and he wasn't super nice to me. So,
He wasn't a good pitcher
He
either.
was not very good.
So basically, I'm picking against Iowa, despite him also go Wolverines, big Tom Brady guy.
Yeah.
Give me the Wolverines in this one. It's weird that Pat and I support a same school. As he
You do it for very different reasons.
Oh, very different reasons.
Why do you
But
support the Wolverines, huh?
my mom went there, and my older brother coached basketball there.
Yeah, nothing anywhere close to that.
But yeah, give me the Wolverines. They're on fire. I just think that when it comes down to it, defensive stops are going to have to be made, and I think Michigan is going to make those stops. Next up, let's move on to this weekend on Saturday. Number 14, Texas travels to take on the Red Raiders of Texas Tech.
Yeah, these are two teams that I seemingly cannot seem to pick correctly for these two games. So I picked Texas in the last game. I'm going to pick against them in this game. I'm going to take Texas Tech. I'm going to trust the beard, trust the boys and Mac McClung, and I'll take Texas Tech.
Yeah,
Guns up.
Mac McClung is the man that ended it for Texas. He hit that game winner. I'm not predicting that there's another game-winning situation, but I'm going to stick with them as well. This is a game that makes a lot of sense. They're playing at home, and they're definitely sliding off, kind of like how Texas has. Texas Tech a little bit more significantly, though. So I think that a home game like this against ranked Texas could go a long way. So I think that they're going to ultimately get this one.
Pat.
Yeah, I didn't even hear the teams. I won't lie to you. I wasn't paying attention. Who's playing?
Texas at Texas Tech.
Oh, shoot. You know what? Patrick Mahomes went to Texas Tech. And I know you're a big Patrick Mahomes fan, Ryan, so give me Texas.
Give me Texas Tech in this one at home. I think that Chris Beard is not going to have another tantrum on his home court, even though I would love to see it. It was evolutionary for me. I loved it. But
evolutionary?
Revolutionary.
Evolved into some ethereal
revolutionary.
being?
I'm sorry. Okay, I'm sorry.
It was kind of evolutionary for me. Bro, are you a Homo sapien now? Did you... My God.
Dude, the mute button is killing me tonight. What I was going to say is I think Ryan prefers to be Homo erectus.
yeah, Ryan is a big Homo erectus guy.
Yeah, but we are all deep down Homo sapiens. Yes, okay. I remember that. That's one of the few things I remember.
Okay.
Ryan evolved. Did you miss it?
Yeah, but I said deep down we're all Homo sapiens.
He had an evolutionary.
We have to move forward. Give me Texas Tech in this one.
We're gonna have to.
Number 5, Illinois travels to number 23, Wisconsin.
Dude, you guys already know where I'm going. I'm going with Ayo DeSumo. I'm going with Kofi Coburn and the boys. And this team's unstoppable right now. Ayo is trending towards possibly reaching Luka Garza's caliber in the National Player of the Year race and, of course, the Big Ten Player of the Year race. He's been incredible. Another triple-double this weekend in their stomping of Minnesota at the barn. One of two teams to go in there and win so far this year. The other being Maryland, of all teams. Although they do move up in the top 30 in the net this week, that is significant to some teams. So very interesting game here because we know Wisconsin, very veteran-savvy team. They haven't let many teams beat them twice this year. Michigan is an exception to that. We'll see if Illinois can join them as well.
Yeah, I expect Illinois to join them on this one as well. When it comes down to it, Wisconsin, they have a great defensive strategy. They know how to keep games to a very minimal amount of points, and that's allowed them to stay in games. But they're ultimately not able to finish strong, and they're not able to win the last couple stretches of games. So I feel like I have to go with Illinois because, of course, I mean, they are the better team. They have so many good players that are contributing to their success. You just mentioned them, Dom, but there's so many things to like about this team, not only in a game like this, but come tournament play. So as far as this single game goes, definitely going to have to take Illinois in this one.
As much as I hate the name, the Fighting Illini, and I will literally start a petition on change.org to get that changed. I've watched a lot of Illinois basketball this year. Dom is a big supporter, and I see how good they are. They're dominant. So give me give me Illinois in this game.
I gotta take the duo of Io and Kofi. They're dominant. The Fighting Illini are playing terrific basketball right now, and I expect them to continue that trend. So give me Illinois in this one, and Dom, you might have a visitor in a minute. All right, let's move on. Final game on our slate for Saturday. Number 2, Baylor travels to Lawrence, Kansas, and Allen Fieldhouse to take on the 17th ranked Jayhawks.
Yeah, this has been the one game circled all year on the calendar where it's like, okay, Baylor might lose this game. Kansas has been trending upward, so it could be one of those games. And I think it has the potential to be, obviously, in Allen Fieldhouse. Kansas historically always plays well there, but I think this Baylor team's too good. And I already picked against Kansas once this episode, so it'd kind of be odd for me to then pick against them. But Baylor does have 3 games this week, starting on Tuesday, then Thursday against West Virginia, like we already mentioned, the boys from Morgantown, and then Ryan's boys from Kansas. So busy week for Baylor. We'll see how they handle it, and Kansas could shock them.
Wait, are you saying that Ryan is a boy from Morgantown and his boys are from Kansas?
No, he's not a boy from Morgantown. No.
He's a boy for Morgantown?
No, definitely not.
He went to Morgantown.
Yes, he took a trip to Morgantown.
I made a detour to Morgantown and then left after I overextended my stay and decided to leave.
You want to talk about it, buddy?
No, I'm good. So, Dom, who'd you pick exactly?
I picked Baylor.
Okay. Parker.
Well, yes, this is one of those games that does make some sense. If we're ever going to go against Baylor, this is a game where you can look at it. It's Kansas at home. Baylor, like Dom mentioned, I didn't know this would be their 3rd game of the week, which definitely takes a toll on players as far as consistently being out there or even traveling over to Kansas. So it makes sense, but ultimately with these picks, I got to go with the more likely situation, and I got to go with the better team. And until Baylor gives me a reason to not believe in them, I'm going to have to go with them. Kansas is a very enticing pick. It's a good upset pick, but I have to go with the smart one, and that's Baylor.
I already know Ryan's gonna pick Kansas. Give me Baylor.
This is tough.
Dude, you've been doing this for the past 2 minutes. Just pick Kansas and move on.
No, it's tough because I think KU is trending in the right direction, in the direction that they should have been in all year long. I think the emergence of David McCormack has been terrific and has been essential for them to turn around. Give me the Jayhawks. This might hurt me in the pick'ems, but give me the Jayhawks. I think they're going to give Baylor their first loss. It wouldn't shock me if it doesn't happen, but if it does happen, I'm going to cash in on our pick'ems. Now let's move on to our final game of the week. Sunday, as number 9 Iowa travels to take on the Buckeyes of number 4 Ohio State.
Yeah, really crucial game because, according to my picks, I had Iowa losing to Michigan, and then they're going to finish up this tough week with their game against Ohio State, who Michigan just beat. It's at Ohio State. It's at the Horseshoe, and I don't think they're going to lose there again. I think Iowa falls in both these games. It's not going to hurt them because these are 2 really good teams. I put them at number 3 and 4 in my poll this week. Certainly an argument to put Illinois above Ohio State, but I'm going to take Ohio State here, and I think they get it done. Iowa, if they can find a way to win one of these 2 games, certainly be an impressive boost to their resume.
Same from me. I think Iowa does fall in the rankings just a little bit more with this loss. But it is important to mention, like Dom said, that these are 2 very good teams that they'll be losing to. So they're going to get the benefit of the doubt ultimately. They won't fall too far. But ultimately, back-to-back losses is back-to-back losses. And failure to show up and try and steal one of these – or I don't want to necessarily say steal one of these wins because that's discrediting Iowa. But just going on the road to Ohio State and getting a win like this is something that they're going to have to want to do unless they're going to fall, which I think they will, because Ohio State looked very good in that loss to Michigan. It was a great game. It lived up to the expectations, which was really nice to see. And I like that they didn't move in the rankings because that was, like I said, a very competitive game, and they showed so much out of it. So I'm going to go with Ohio State on this one because of that. This team is really talented, and I'm very curious to see where they do fall in the ultimate seeding.
Pat?
Give me Ohio State.
For those listening on Blaze on Wednesday, he just spelled out Ohio, which, in case if you've never attended an Ohio State sporting event, Ohio is spelled O-H-I-O, and it's very annoying.
Wow.
They say it a lot, and it's annoying. All right, Ryan, make your pick.
Give me the Buckeyes. I think Iowa's going to fall in 2 straight games. And I agree with you, Dom. I don't think it's going to hurt them that much because they're going against 2 teams that could easily be 1 seeds in the NCAA tournament. So there's that. Now, let's get into it. That concludes college basketball. Let's go to the NBA. First thing, I want to share my screen, and we are going to look at something from last night. And, of course, it is going to be the Kawhi Leonard foul that closed out the game against the Nets. Let's take a look here.
The team call the best passer for the Clippers. Leonard drives, goes inside, lays it up, and an offensive foul is called. And they don't have a challenge yet.
From that view, do you guys think that's an offensive foul?
Absolutely not.
Now let's take a look at the slow-mo view.
Left.
Go for it.
Because they took their challenge on the Beverly screen. Kawhi Leonard unaware, asking them to challenge, unaware that they don't have the challenge. Yep. No. Nope. No, Mike. Like you can say.
All right, let's break this
It's a
down.
foul all day. It's a foul all day. It's a foul all day. He used his elbow and he pushed off. It's a foul all day.
Does he?
Pat has given his stance.
Does he slightly extend the arm? Yes, there is arm movement. And the big thing with NBA is like there's a difference between flopping and exaggerating a call. There's a huge difference because flopping is just straight up falling to the floor with very, very minimal contact. I don't know if I'd classify it as very minimal. He was exaggerating heavily, but ultimately those are 2 guys going at it. There's going to be contact driving to the hoop. That's a huge possession, and that is a call that you can't blow the whistle on. It doesn't make sense. He's going up. He made the layup. And that's that. James Harden is known for this, and players have certain profiles. They have certain viewpoints from refs, and I'm not necessarily saying it's a good thing because refs sometimes fall back on that a little bit too much and either give the player a benefit of the doubt or the exact opposite. But in this case, the refs have to know what James Harden does here and there. He's one of those players that's on that list of guys that are going to do stuff like that, and I just think it's awful that that's the reason why the Clippers lost a huge matchup.
Dom.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bad call. I'm put in a jumble here because Kawhi Leonard's my guy, and I fell in love watching college basketball, watching him at San Diego State for my Aztecs. But anytime a call goes against the Flippers, it's always a good day in my book. Lakers in 4, but this was a bad call.
Yeah, this is a flop.
Well, I'm not saying it's not a flop.
It's not a flop. It's an exaggeration. It's an exaggeration. I got Parker.
It's a bad call is what it is.
Yes.
For you to call a charge, you have to fully extend your arm. He barely extended his arm. That's not a good call.
He fully extended his arm.
I think
here's
the
thing. Well, no, hold on. I'm just playing devil's advocate here. Let me be honest. Do I think that this should have been called? No. Do I think at other points in the game this is called a foul? Yes. Do I think it was a bad time to call it? Yes. But I'm just saying we can't just say this isn't a foul. It's not a completely legal play, is it?
It is a bang-bang play, and the thing that ultimately is the most frustrating for something like this is James Harden is one of the best scorers we've ever seen. Like, there's no debating that. But one thing that's always rubbed me the wrong way is he's the kind of guy that's looking to get to the line instead of making the initial basket that he shoots. And this is no different because defensively, this is a huge possession. Kawhi's driving to the hoop. You know you have to get a big stop. So instead of exaggerating the call and flying back and hoping you get it, what he should be doing is pressing up against Kawhi, obviously being smart, not trying to make a foul call, but trying to contest the shot better. So
that's defensive strategy. Like, that's a thing that you can do in the NBA. There's no rule against it.
that's the kind of thing that the NBA does have anti-flopping. I'm not saying that's flopping because that wouldn't be the right way to classify that particular play. But they do have policies for this that the league investigates, and I think that they just need to go a little bit harder into this so that you don't have guys doing this. Because as long as the NBA is allowing it, it's never going to change ultimately. And if you can get away with it, yeah, sure, go for it. But I think that what it shows is a bigger problem with the NBA overall that has to change. It's plays like this that really needs to be taken into account, especially in the offseason.
Well, don't get me wrong. If my team did this, I'm crying. Or if this happened to my team, I'm crying until tomorrow morning.
Yeah, it's
But watching it from like a neutral perspective, I can understand why they called it. I don't think it was a great call, but I don't think it was a horrible call either.
I think that in that time, that's not something you call. I think that is it a completely legal play? Not fully, but it's something as a ref I wouldn't call. I don't think that there was a full extension of his arm. And yes, I do have history reffing basketball, but this was 8th graders, so it doesn't matter. But overall, I probably wouldn't have called it. It's just a bad time to make that call. And, I'm not a fan of the Clippers, but one of my best friends is, and he was not happy. Let's go with that. What'd you say, Pat?
I said your friend's a bandwagoner.
Nope, he's actually not. He's been a fan for them for the past 8 years.
Yeah, so back when they had Chris Paul, Blake Griffin, and DeAndre Jordan?
Before that. It was a few years before they got them.
Ryan just can't count.
Yeah, right. Like 30 years, I think. I don't know.
How many times do I have to tell you? You have to fix that voice, Pat.
What's wrong with this voice? I sound just like you.
No, you don't. You make me sound like a condescending a-hole, and I don't like that.
I make you sound like one.
I am not condescending. Only towards you. Okay, let's move on to our next topic. Ryan Saunders is the first head coach to be fired, as he was fired by the Timberwolves yesterday, and they will be hiring Raptors assistant coach Chris Finch. We're not going to focus on that because it's evident that he should have been fired. The Timberwolves have been horrible this year, and Parker's happy about that because he wants them to perform better for a better pick for the Warriors.
I would. Just from a statistical standpoint, should they be a little bit better, that would definitely help the cause. So I'm rooting for you guys in Minnesota, all right?
This is a really good firing. He was dog doo-doo. This team is more talented than they're showing right now. Granted, they lost Cat for an extended period of time. Yeah. And D'Lo, but Cat's been out for a lot of the season.
Yeah.
This will be big to see if they can somewhat turn things around. They don't have a ton of depth. They're not a team that's going to go down in the history books as one of the most underrated, but I think they are more talented than they're showing on the court, and this firing could be a big step in the right direction.
Yeah, they definitely are more talented than we see because they've got D'Angelo Russell, they've got Anthony Edwards, who had a murder of a dunk on Watanubi the other night, and then they've got Cat. Like, they've got a lot of talent. They do. It's just they haven't been able to piece it together. So I think it's a great fire. I think they need to go in a new direction. But my question to you guys is, who do you think is next to be fired by their team?
I think Scott Brooks is definitely a candidate, head coach of the Washington Wizards. The Wizards have been playing much better basketball as of late, winning 4 straight. But when they traded John Wall this offseason and added another point guard in Russell Westbrook, expectations were for them to get back into the playoff race in the East, where they were a couple of years ago. We all remember the John Wall and Bradley Beal teams that I know Pat remembers, that they put up a really good fight against the Celtics. They were a good team. They just haven't been the past couple of years. At 10-17 right now, like I mentioned, they've won 4 straight. They find themselves in third to last place in the Eastern Conference that already isn't that good. I mean, there's 2 under 500 teams and then a 500 team in Pat Celtics that are currently in the playoff picture, and the Wizards are currently outside of that. So if they don't find a way to improve and possibly get closer to that, I think that Brooks could be on the hot seat.
For me, there's a lot of really bad teams that are either struggling or they just don't have the talent. So it's a little bit harder to evaluate depending on the coach and how long they've been there. But one that comes to mind is Luke Walton for the Kings. He's been there for too long for them to still be struggling. Of course, as a Warriors fan, I love what he was able to do, especially when Steve Kerr had the back issues. He took over as the interim head coach. That was what really got him looks around the league, and that went a long way for him. But ultimately, with Sacramento, the lack of success in that playoff drought continues with him. I think they need to go in a new direction. They're 12-18 right now and 13 in the West, I believe. I think that's where they're currently sitting at. This is a team that has a lot of young talent, and I do think injuries have played a large factor in the last couple of years. Marvin Bagley's been a guy that's been very injury prone. Even De'Aaron Fox will get banged up here and there and not consistently be on the court for a majority of the season. And I think that, you got to give a coach a little bit of slack for those instances, but ultimately it's been too many years, and especially when the team is looking healthy, you want better results. This is a young team that I've actually had a lot of faith in, dating back to probably 2019 or even 2018, just because I saw the young core they're developing. It seemed like they're finally putting some good draft picks together, but ultimately there has been no success to go with it. So I think that they do need to move in a different direction because it's a young, talented core that needs a different leader.
Pat, do you see anyone getting fired?
No, I the more they lose, the more I fear for Brad Stevens' safety. But I don't see anybody getting fired in the next few weeks. This firing felt very early for me. So
For me, I could see two potentially getting fired. First one, I could see Dwayne Casey hasn't been able to do anything in Detroit at all.
They have no talent, though, but I agree.
Jeremy Grant's been playing pretty well. Like, they don't have a ton of talent, but they also should not be under 10 wins right now at all. So I think that he's just been a disappointment since he went there. The only one I can see is Terry Stotts and the Trailblazers. 2 straight seasons, they have been underperforming for what they have. Yeah, they've had injuries. I understand that. But this is a team that went from being in the Western Conference Finals to barely making it to the playoffs last year in the bubble. So I think that that's another thing, another guy that you have to look at. All right, that is – wait, say that again?
You're talking about the Blazers, right?
Yeah.
For this
They're 18-11. No, absolutely.
Oh, wow.
It wouldn't make sense for this season. Last season, yeah, you that's an argument where, he was never really in jeopardy of getting fired because they still were in the playoffs and they had their bubble performances. But, this definitely would not be the year to do it because although they have a ton of talent, they've also had injuries. I mean, C.J. McCollum's been out for almost 3 weeks
And
now.
is Nurkic still out? Isn't he out for
Nurkic is also
3 weeks or more?
I don't know how much longer he's going to be out for. I'd have to check that. I don't know at the top of my head, but I do know he's also out. So all things considered, obviously Dame is picking it up. He's an MVP candidate for a reason.
That's my MVP!
But either way, though, this team is performing, I'd say, right around where
What happened?
they potentially could
My
be
internet
fully
died.
expected. So firing would not make sense over there in Portland.
Pat, I assume you have something to say. Are you guys sharing a computer now?
And there he is.
Well, he's in.
That confused me
Yeah.
so much at first. I not seeing that.
Okay, so that is going to end our show on Blaze Radio this week, as we are restricted to 58 minutes to an hour. So everyone who's listening on Blaze, thank you very much for watching. We will be back next week. Now we can get to our final 2 topics that will just go on YouTube. It's going to revolve around the All-Star game. Damian Lillard was not named an All-Star starter, and Luka Doncic was named the starter over him. Do you guys think he was robbed?
Yeah, I mean, Damian Lillard definitely deserves to start over him. I mean, I'm not going to complain. Once again, it's the All-Star game. It doesn't really matter that much. Obviously, Damian Lillard deserved it over him. I'm not going to lie that he didn't. But at the same time, it's what happens when you're second fiddle in the Bolt 24 commercials to Fernando Tatis Jr. Fernando Tatis Jr. just is better. Dame Dollar. He should be starting the All-Star game, though.
All right. I think it's a bad call. Overall, I think it's bad. I think that when you look at it, you have to think about who has been playing better and been more crucial to their team, and I think it has been Damian Lillard. He has been the reason that they have been so successful and been able to carry on with their winning without Nurkic and McCollum. So I think that he deserved to get it, and he should have. Next up, and our final topic of the night, any snubs from the All-Star game that you guys could think of?
Nope, the reserves have not been announced yet, so there's really nothing to go off of. I mean, there's guys that I think could potentially get snubbed. I know last year it was a big deal when Devin Booker initially didn't get in. It wasn't until an injury that allowed him to. There's going to be a lot of guys that are playing really well that aren't going to get in, unfortunately, because there's only so many that are allowed to. And, of course, with COVID, I know De'Aaron Fox was very against it. I'm sure he's not alone in saying that. So I expect to be some snubs. There's going to be some debates. We might even mention them if it's worth mentioning, but ultimately we don't know that yet. So we'll have to wait and see.
Potential snubs: Dennis Schroeder, Alex Caruso, Montrezl Harrell, Marc Gasol, all those guys. The All-Star team should basically be the team that won the Western Conference last year, won the NBA championship last year. Lakers and Foe.
I have nobody at this time. That's something that we can always discuss. Once the reserves are out, potential guys that I think could get snubbed would be, I think, a guy like Jaylen Brown when he should be in. But that's something that we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Everyone, thank you very much for listening to this edition of the 4-3 show. Don't know what happened to Pat. I think his internet went out. But
yeah,
we are glad to have you on every week as always. We will be back next week. Enjoy all of college basketball and NBA basketball this week.